Hey, it's Jason for Talking Grit. I normally don't do this cut in before the intro, but Jacob and I forgot to mention that this was episode 100 that we recorded. So big shout out to everyone that's followed us and given us support along the way. We really appreciate it. Should have talked about it in the episode. It feels sacrilegious to do this without Jacob, but I at least want to acknowledge this that we have hit episode 100 and we are very grateful. So thank you for listening and go Lions.
Welcome to Talking Grit, a Detroit Lions podcast. Powered by the Monroe County Reporters. Here are your hosts, Jason Harwood and Jacob Litton.
Alrighty, we're back for another episode of Talking Grit. I am Jason Harwood. Over there is Jacob Litton. Great game yesterday. Lions won again. Covered the spread, even though it was the largest for them as a road team since before I was born. How long ago is that, Jacob? Very long, right?
A long, long time ago.
In a galaxy far, far away. No, it's in this galaxy. It was a good game.
Despite
man.
his appearance, he was born in this galaxy.
Sorry, I'm wearing a hat. I'm trying to look younger. Got my earbuds in. You can see my big old ears. It's just the style I'm going with today. Is it okay?
I guess. You look like the creepy guy waiting around the skate park trying to hang out with the kids.
That's right. Like,
Is that what you're going for? Because you nailed it.
All right, that's sweet. Good.
Check
We're
out my
starting out the
earbuds,
show
guys.
hot, and I like it. Yeah, check out my earbuds. They're like $200 earbuds, man. They're cool. They're actually noise canceling ones, so I could cancel you out whenever I want to.
Perfect. You're going to need them.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so we are live on YouTube. Talked about that before. If you guys are indifferent, check us out on YouTube. That's the best way we prefer you to check us out. But well, however you want to check us out, that's fine too. We're on Spotify. Got the video uploaded now. I've been doing that weekly. That seems to be a hit so far. And obviously we're still on Apple and everything like that. We've had quite a few people ask us about additional content. And yes, we do that on YouTube. So stuff that doesn't show up on this podcast does show up on there. I usually do like a 7 to 8 minute reaction, like right after the game. Been doing that the last couple weeks. We'll do an injury report update. I did a thing when Decker got announced out, like what to expect. So we do have additional content on YouTube. So you could go over there, subscribe, hit notification. That way, as soon as we go live, you can hear it. If I post a new video, then you'll know what's up there. So I encourage you to do that. All right, Jacob. There were some transactions and everything that led up to this game. Why don't you go over that? And then we can move into the special teams.
All right, let's start with the headliner. Taylor Decker out. So it's funny how it progressed as the week went on, where, at first, the first practice he missed, probably just precautionary, right? Let's hope, they're just giving him some more rest. Then he's still missing practice. We're still not getting any updates. Then you start getting worried. Then he's downgraded to doubtful, and then eventually he's out. I know Justin Rogers had posted or said that it turns out that was the plan from the jump, is that Decker was going to get this game off, and Manu found out he was starting on like Tuesday. No one else knew that, though, so that was a not so pleasant surprise for us to hear that Decker was going to be out. Hopefully he's okay, and they're just, like we talked about in the last pod, they're just using this as like a rest game, because it was not pretty for Manu out there, but we'll get into that later. Other players that were out, Aleem McNeil, they said maybe a 50-50 chance of playing. He did not play. Sione Vaki is still out. Khalil Dorsey was still out. Zach Cunningham ruled out. And then the inactives this week were the same as last week, which were Kingsley, Iguaquin, Chris Smith, Mekhi Wingo. Those were the healthy inactives. That part has not changed. The two players that were elevated this week, cornerback Trey Flowers, which ended up being a huge elevation. We needed him more than we thought we were going to. And then offensive tackle Devin Cochran was also elevated from the practice squad for this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Devin Cochran was like before the whole Decker got downgraded thing. So it was like that was our first sign that maybe that Decker isn't going to play.
That was the first red flag that popped up. You're like, uh-oh.
So did you look at the snap counts at all today?
I saw them, but I don't have them memorized or anything like that.
All right. All right. I'm going to play an over-under game with you.
Okay.
I'm going to say Trey Flowers over under 7 snaps. Do you think you got over or under 7 snaps?
It was probably right around that, right? When Terryon got hurt. I'll say over.
You're right. It's 9 snaps. So he goes from like not, not being on the team to this is like shades of last year on the defensive line, right? Not a feeling I want to feel again.
This is an interesting dynamic now that we have, though, because all the talk about the edge rusher and all the talk about the depth, and they were talking about how it was such the worst position that we could have this happen to as a defensive line, and now here we're about to relive that, but with the cornerback room, and it's like, would you rather have your starters at cornerback and your backups on the defensive line, or have your starters on the defensive line, your backups at cornerback? Well, we're gonna live this experiment out, guys, and nobody wants to, but that's what we're dealing with right now.
Well, I could tell you that when we had Cam Sutton and Amani back there, it kind of felt like this. Like, things were
Not
just
good.
terrible back there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So I don't know. At least we have Amik. I mean, Amik's our godsend right now, right? That we got him back there.
Yes.
Dynasty Lions is on
deep,
here. I want to give him
but,
yeah. Yeah, he did. We could talk about that in a minute. Dynasty Lions is on here, says, asks us, do we realize that the Lions don't have to play their hand with injuries? Of course. And it's smart. And that's why none of us knew about the whole Decker thing. It's to their advantage, right? To not give away that information. I mean, Dan Campbell is fairly open about things, but he doesn't have to be in this case. And he played this one pretty close to the vest.
these are usually the kind of things that Dan runs by us, though, when we play poker on Monday nights. So
yes, exactly.
Obviously, we have no more insight than anybody else.
I don't know. You're not at the poker night? You don't ask him those questions?
Yeah.
Justin's there. Jeremy shows
Right.
up every once in a while.
We're trying to get an invite.
Trying to. Brad Holmes hasn't showed up yet. Now, that's an interesting question. This is, would we rather have a healthy defensive line and a banged up secondary, or either or? The answer is neither, but we'll see how it goes. I mean, this will be a great experiment for everyone that hates Terryon Arnold, right? Be like, well, we lost him. So, because, we haven't mentioned that Terryon Arnold and Dorsey are going to be out for a while. When they asked for the season, Dan Campbell says he didn't know yet, but it doesn't look good.
That's a dagger. I hate, obviously you hate anyway, but to hear it's a while and then the uncertainty, but it's, long term, it's like, oh my God, we just, especially with DJ Reed already being out, now you really hope that Reed comes back after those 4 weeks, 3 more weeks. But
yeah, maybe just 2 more games, just because of the bye week being in there.
Right.
I just don't, with those hamstring injuries, especially with the corner, like those things linger. And I hope we don't feel like the necessity to like rush him back and then he gets busted for the, rest of the year. The Lions tend to not rush things back, but depending on, what happens in that back end, we may feel the need to do that.
Right. But that's also, I mean, Terryon's shoulder injury, he was battling a shoulder injury previously, right? I mean, I don't know this for sure, but I imagine it's the same shoulder that's been bothering him, right?
Whatever
sort of injury he was dealing with has now been worse, or, playing on it hurt ended up being, really bad for us in this case.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure. We don't know the answer to that question, so I can't speak to, if I know it's the same shoulder, but whether it's playing on
has
it
anything to do with
has anything to do with whether this was going to happen either way, I'm not sure. I mean, the Lions are pretty precautious with this, so I doubt they just left it up to Terryon to let him know. I'm sure they had the medicals to know that, whether playing on it could make it worse. It might be just a coincidence and he got hit it, he hit it right. But
you say that, but the medical team took a lot of crap last year for all the injuries and different things we were dealing with, and the fans did not appreciate the way that was going down. So, I mean, who knows? If they're leaving it up to the players, and of course Terryon's like, yeah, I can go, or, obviously I don't think it's any sort of situation where they would force him or say that he's ready when he wasn't. But I mean, we needed him this week. We got him for almost the whole game. Now we lose him for potentially, who knows, 8 weeks, whatever.
Well, Jamar Chase was pretty much locked up pretty much the whole game until Terryon went out.
Exactly.
I'm not saying it was all him, but he had a pretty nice game, I would say. I know he's had the penalties, and we could look at those on the all 22. I don't know. Some are ticky tack, man. He just got that label on him, and he's getting screwed.
Right. I don't care about those anymore. I mean, like, I want him to play the ball. So the defensive pass interferences when he's not playing the ball bother me, but those don't happen very frequently anymore. It seems to be these holding calls, and we could make a compilation of every holding call this year, and I would bet maybe 80% of them are not holding calls or calls that would probably not be called most of the time.
Yeah. I don't know. I just don't like that call in general, to be honest with you, because it's so it seems like it's like holding on the offensive line. It happens every play, and then they just decide to call it. And it always tends to be on third down. I would love to
Yes.
someone to do the math. It's like they're always on third down. Now you might say, well, you're passing more likely on third down than maybe you run on first and second, but I would love to see the numbers of when that's called on first and second down as opposed to third down, because I would think the percentage would be way higher up.
Yes. Agreed.
All right, special teams. Let's get into the units here. Khalif obviously got injured, and that looked scary when it happened.
It did. Really, really bad right away. And then they cut to the commercial break. It's one of those like, man, please let him get up, let him be okay. Don't let it be anything like that.
You and I both had a similar thought because when you sent me the text, I don't know if how I responded. I can't remember now, but we both noticed he was flexing his fingers. And I was like, man, that could be a stinger. I mean, he was moving the rest of his body, but I was wondering, if he had just got a stinger. He was up moving. He got up moving fine. Then I thought, well, they're going to put him in they're going to do a concussion test or whatever. But it seems to be more like a neck injury. And Dan Campbell said today he doesn't know if he's going to play next week or not, which means Tesla is going to get a little, which will be, it'll be as opposed to this situation where Tesla got upgraded, but that's mid game. He didn't practice, what they needed to practice. If they know now that Khalif Raymond's not going to go, then they will get Tesla ready. They will get some plays in there. And I think you might see him more involved with the offense next week if, in fact, we know ahead of time that, Khalif's not going to play.
Right. Possibly dial up a few more things towards him. I thought it was interesting. So Khalif goes out, and then Lovett is the one back there returning the punts. He did not return a single punt, though. Every single one, just let bounce, let it go. Both of them were in the end zone anyway, but, I don't know if that was by design or if they were like, hey, you're fair catching this thing. If it's within the 10, we're taking our chances and just letting it go. But it was interesting that there wasn't not one return after Khalif went out, because Khalif fielded the first punt.
I feel like,
and then there's three more afterward. Sorry, but then yes,
Okay.
no returns after that. Sorry, go ahead.
I feel as though he wasn't given a lot of opportunity. Those punts were they were almost automatic touchbacks. I'd have to look at all of them again, but just from my memory, they were just.
It seemed like they were, yeah.
Yeah, like there was no reason to return those, and fine. That's fine. Get it out to 20. That's what our offense needs. Just don't get backed up, because I'd rather, especially with Manu playing back there, I'd rather not have Jared in the end zone attempting a pass. Jake Bates kind of didn't have anything to do. Didn't return or didn't kick any field goals, but all his kickoffs were awesome. Like very consistently from like the 2 to 5 yard line. Our coverage has been much better since the beginning of the year. We're consistently getting them closer to the 20 yard line, which is awesome. And they busted one out past the 35, I think, but for the most part, we held them before the 30 yard line, which is great with that offense because they struggled, right? And so making them go longer down the field.
Absolutely. They did. They only had one drive that started past the 35. It was at the 37.
Yep. All right. What'd you think about Jack Fox?
Another decent game from Jack Fox. I don't think that it was nothing special. I mean, he had 5 punts, but 4 of them ended up inside the 20. Part of that's field position. His average was about 45 yards. So, I mean, serviceable. I still think he did a good job. There just wasn't anything. There was no reason to wow us, I guess, either. What were your thoughts? Did you have anything that you're like, man, that was a booming kick, or we did
No, I think he did an awesome job doing what we need to do. Pin him down in there. I mean, we should have had 2 safeties in that game. Most of that's because Fox is getting it down in there, and Tesla had a nice, where he dived, kept the ball from rolling in, was smart enough to get rid of the ball before he touched the end line. So that was awesome. Yeah, no, I mean, he did exactly what we needed him to do. And just as opposed to the other punter kicking him, for automatic touchbacks, Fox was laying him inside the 10, which was awesome. Yeah. What you wrote, the note you wrote on here, 4 or 5 were inside the 20, which, some of that was field position because we'll talk
That's
about,
what I
I
was
guess we
saying. A
get,
lot of it was field position, but I mean, they're still, you're getting it up there, and they were, like you already said, they're downing or they're being forced to fair catch it inside there.
hmm and so you watched the game with me, and the penalty at the end of the game was not explained very well. Did you go back and look and see what exactly why we got the ball at the 10-yard line at the end of the game? Because I
I
did.
saw live on Twitter, like somebody had explained it because, it was the same kind of thing. I'm sitting here watching the boys, and Amon Ra, gets the fair catch. And I was wondering already about the whole, because I don't know what the rule is for an onside, safety punt like that. I don't know. Clearly, there is something in place for that. But yeah, then all of a sudden, they're just shows them walking all the way down the field. They're walking further and further. It's like, wow, we're going to start the ball at like the 10-yard line.
Yeah, so the official thing that I saw, and I think Jeremy Reisman's the one that wrote this up, was that they had declared an onside kick, and then when they punted it, it was outside the landing zone for the onside kick. Like Amon-Ra was like a yard past it. So then it's like half the distance to the goal, and it's assessed from where the punt took place, which was at the 20. So that's why we got it at the 10. That was insane. We just kept
Right.
walking. So I don't know, like, is there, so on a, how far do they have to kick it from the 20 normally? Do they have to hit it the other landing zone on the other side, like from the 20? Is there,
I
or
saw
was
the
it just a
picture of the
landing
landing
zone?
zone. I saw the picture of the landing zone. I don't know
Okay.
exactly where it's at. But essentially, you're kicking the
Okay.
ball up in the air, and then you have like that window where the other team, like, the Bengals would have needed us. Basically, you're trying to get down there, and you hope that they muff the punt. That's your only chance
Right.
to recover this. You got to kick it up in the air, which is weird because I wonder how many onside safety punts have happened, like in history. Since they've done this whole landing zone thing, especially, I don't know.
Yeah. I can't imagine too many.
And is this the first
But
time where this
especially-
penalty happened and somebody started at the 10?
It seems like it. I mean, that's crazy. But
The Lions are always
Yeah, I
good
don't
for
know.
these obscure first time, rules coming into play. So there's
Worked out
nothing
for
too
us this
surprising
time, though.
about that. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, historically it does not work out in our favor, but lately the tides have turned.
Yep. All right. So let's move on to the defense. Before we do that, I want to say hi to I think it's Contraposton. I know I know he listens to the UK show. He might be a buddy with Ash, but welcome to the show. He says the league's got the refs have a hit out on our secondary. And I don't think it's necessarily like a league mandate, but I do think it's in the book that, we play close coverage and to be on the lookout for it. And I'm sure the other team, notifies the refs, what they see on tape ahead of time, and it's being watched for.
And you've seen some of those things mic'd up where they may even say, like, hey, well, Jamar is running an out route, watch number 6 and make sure he lays off him. And then some of those times where it's like, okay, Terryon touches him at the right time, and then all of a sudden it's a holding penalty.
Yeah.
They've got to be zeroed in on them
Gotcha.
to be able to make these calls as quick as they do.
Yep. All right. What do you want to talk about on the defense first?
Let's start with I guess the only negative part that's glaring or whatever is that we gave up 322 yards, which were second most by our defense. Was that surprising to you to see that number after the game based on how it went? Did you feel like it was lower, or?
I just felt like the defense controlled the game, when they needed to control the game. And then we slightly let them get back into it. And then our offense slammed the door on that. And we'll talk about that when we get to the offense. I'm curious. So that number, 322 yards, did you look to see how much came in the fourth quarter? Because
I did not see specifically how much came in the fourth quarter, but obviously
Okay,
the
so-
majority of their yards were. Do you have the number?
Yeah. So I do have the numbers. Just let me tell you. So the first time they scored the very first touchdown that they got, that drive started in the third quarter with about 5 minutes left. So I included that number because that drive ended in the fourth quarter. So technically this isn't all fourth quarter numbers, but it's 199 they got 199 yards from that drive, like 5 minutes left in the third quarter through the rest of the game. So well over half of their yards came, when we were up. By the time we were up 28-3, that's when those yards came.
Right.
So a team has come back from 28-3. I don't know if you know that. It was this well-watched game. Former Michigan quarterback was the quarterback, is 28-3. I don't
Stakes
know
were
if
pretty
you
high in that one
remember
too.
that game or not. They were, yeah, for sure. It didn't happen in this case. But yeah, so 199 yards. And I will tell you that first touchdown pass that Chase caught was, I don't know where Browning got that from, because the rest of the game he couldn't hit the broadside of a barn, but that was somehow this perfect pass where we had 3 defenders there, and then Chase made a great catch on that.
Yeah, he
And
just
Hutch
willed
is like
that ball over
barreling
there.
down and just smokes Browning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything about that
Oh,
was just
man.
like perfectly set up for them. That actually, I don't know if you saw the next gen stats, but that had a 12.5% catch probability. So that's officially the most improbable touchdown catch this season. And watching it live,
I don't know how
we
they
all
get
believe
that number. I don't know if they get that number because of the quarterback throwing it too, or is it just the placement and like where the defenders
Probably
were? But
out of the pocket, quarterback running, pressure in his face, 3 defenders in the area, the receiver going out of bounds. There's a long list of things that made that improbable.
Yes. And then the second touchdown, Amik, I don't know if you saw the post-game interview, but Amik said he got greedy. He was going for his second pick of the day, was trying to jump the inside route. And I mean, that's the way it looked on, the game tape too.
Right.
And then
we all know
Chase was just wide open. But it's just one of those things that Amik's got to know this. At that point in the game, that interception means very little, but that touchdown gave them a little bit of hope, right? It opened up the door a little bit for them. Whereas, we stopped, breaking up a pass or whatever, because that was a pretty long play. It was like 3rd and 18 or something like that, I think.
3rd and 14.
3rd and 14.
That was after,
yeah.
so Hutch had sacked him. So then it was 2nd and long. They got a quick pass. And then, perfect dial up for 3rd and 14 when you're down 28-10. Like, you know what, Jamar, put on a move and go deep. And then hopefully the line gives me more than 2 seconds to throw the ball.
Yeah.
And I mean, they did. And it was, it was a good play by him. Double move, caught Amik biting.
It was. He did. He got a little greedy. Hutch had, he had a sack, got another, fumble, didn't recover it. That was on the flea flicker play that maybe Ben Johnson drew that one up because that seemed to take a little bit too long. Hutch was almost there, ready to take the ball away from the running back. He could have run like a jet a jet sweep on that, like just take it to the house.
Yes, it was a long day for the Bengals offensive line. Hutch was killing it. He had a really high Pro Football Focus rating. I don't have it in front of me right now, but I want to say that he's first in the league right now. Hutch was a 91.6 according to Pro Football Focus in this one. Second to only Jack Campbell, who Jack had an outstanding game as well.
Yeah, Jack played really well in that game. He didn't get rewarded in that punch out, but that was awesome when he punched that ball out. I wish he would have got that. And then
that's when I wanted to look
Hutch
at all
had
22.
2 more sacks. You want to do the Jack Campbell punch out? Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
Well, just because he had the quarterback pressure and then he came back with the punch out.
Yeah, that was perfect. And he was lining up for that thing too when he punched that ball out. It was awesome. Hutch should have had 2 more sacks. One of them should have been a safety. That safety, I thought it was fun. I think it's hilarious when there's a safety, everybody in the crowd, and like I do it too, like you do the safety symbol, like the boys were doing it, like everyone does it. Like is it so rare that we just have to do this? You have to do it. You have to do it.
You do that at home.
I do.
Is that what you said?
It's the safety dance, right? Yeah.
Yeah, one of them, the safety was overturned by a hold, and then he had the one that was, they said he lined up offsides.
Yeah, he did line up offsides too. He doesn't need to, but he did. But his rushes early also made Browning like leave the pocket earlier and rush throws. Like he was definitely spooked after getting hit a few times.
Yes, definitely. And it took him a long time to settle down. They really only had the one really good drive.
11 pass breakups too. Before the secondary got all hurt, what did you think of the secondary?
We were playing lights out. Exactly how we wanted them to. I mean, we had 3 interceptions, one by Anzalone, but then you had Amik, Kirby, on a terrible throw again. Kirby stole that one from Terryon, but, the coverage was tight. The pressure was on. I mean, that it was going exactly how it should until Terryon went out.
Yep, I agree. Things got a little messy around there. I think our secondary was getting greedy. Anzalone's pick too, and I'm not saying he shouldn't do it, but if he didn't pick that, Kirby was going to get a second because he was sitting. That was a terrible throw, and Kirby was like right behind Anzalone. I don't know what Browning saw in that. Like Moose Johnson said that right in the game, like he didn't understand why that got thrown.
Yeah, and that was a killer too. I mean, for the team, because that was part of that was part of one of my keys to victory anyway. Was just like they're gonna deflate if we get up by multiple scores, and that coming out of the half, they were down 14-3. They really needed to come down and get some points on the board, and then right away Browning gives it back with a terrible pick. And then, we end up scoring not long after that to go up 21-3. And that's when it seemed like the defense had already just about given up.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I agree. And Terryon almost had another pick too, like on the sideline. That would have been a great play, but he had like locked down Chase on that play. And I don't know if he would have kept his feet in bounds. I mean, I know Chase knocked it out, but that would have been a nice first pick.
Right, for sure. I just don't. I mean, so we're talking about the defense. We're talking about Terryon right now, and we already kind of alluded to it that now we're going to see what life is like without Terryon for an extended period of time. But there are a lot of fans that are already labeling Terryon as a bust. And there's a lot of like national media coverage that is saying that Terryon is struggling, that he's not playing well. Pro Football Focus, I think in this game gave him like a coverage rate of like 40 or something, like ridiculously low. It's like I don't know if you feel the same way. We haven't talked about this, but I don't know what they're seeing. I mean, the coverage is tight. It's right there. The penalties are the only thing that you could say. But especially even right now in this game where you could see with Terryon versus without Terryon, how different that defense looked and how much more success they had. I don't understand the narrative that he's a bust or that he's not playing well. Do you think that's just because he's not intercepting the ball, or because we're having these penalties at like they're coming at bad times?
I think the penalties are very noticeable. They're announcing his number. Everyone knows it. Then, like, especially like that game that took away his safety from Hutch, which is, a lot of fans love Hutch for the right reasons, but, they're going to look at Terryon bad. Terryon is just a very polarizing figure. I mean, there are, like you said, a lot of fans that say he's garbage, pure garbage. Then there's other people that I'm probably closer on that line that like there's a reason why he gets called for those flags. And, part of the side effect of having sticky coverage is that his hands get there. And some of that's technique and he needs to work on that. But also I think it's like what I said earlier, he has a label on him. So the refs are just ready to throw that flag for any sort of contact. And, the refs are very flag happy in the secondary in the NFL. And I don't particularly like it, but that's just the way it is.
Yeah. Well, you already know I hate that. I despise that. But
yes.
Yeah, no, when you said it, I've seen that exact thing where you said he's trash or he's garbage. I don't like anyone that's watching the game or watching up close. I don't understand how you come away with that narrative. And I'd be interested if anyone's in the chat or anyone has any insight as to why you think that he, especially for the Lions team where, we had Okuda, we had the higher draft pick, even more pressure was on him. He did not perform at a very high level. You've got the other cornerbacks that we dealt with for how long? Cam Sutton, most recently, he's playing better than they did. He's doing a better job. He's doing what's asked of him. This game, he played 44 snaps. In those 44 snaps, the Bengals got 3 points, 4.1 yards per play. He did not play 14 snaps. And in those 14 snaps, they had 24 points, 10.1 yards per play.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that, I think it's too general to say that that's all Terryon, because also the
it's definitely not all Terryon, but right.
But yes, but I mean, if the numbers were the other way, that people would say, like if he was giving up all those yards, they would use that, they would use that against him. But they're just going to ignore that just happened.
Well,
I think it's mostly the penalties, and he hasn't got a pick. Yeah, well, it is. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that that's just what would happen.
Right.
I think like a Meek is interesting because he's going to get a little bit of a pass because he gave up that big Jamar Chase, but he did come up with a pick. And the impression is a Meek, is just a better corner than Terryon, which may or may not be true. He's going to give a big, he's going to get an extended look at outside corner, it looks like.
Right. Oh, I mean, I do like him, and he showed up against Justin Jefferson last year, and he showed up pretty much every single time that we've asked him to. He played well in this game, with the exception of really the one long touchdown that comes to mind anyway, but we can dissect that a little more. The narrative around Terryon bothers me. And Rakestraw has also been labeled a bust when that's not his fault. There's nothing you can do. I mean, obviously he's not on the field, but
Yeah, I know the Rakestraw thing is, that's an injury thing that's really out of his control, but that's more of a Brad Holmes. People get on Brad Holmes for that because, he had an injury risk or whatever. I will, one thing that I will say that we might have said that these were easy picks or whatever. I will say that we've dropped some along the way. Like, Branch had one that he dropped and Anzalone had one. The guy in Meek had one last week or 2 weeks ago? Or I think it was last week versus the Browns. He had one that he should have came down with. They held on to him, and I give them credit. They might have been very bad passes, but they held on to the ball and put the offense in a very good position to, to score points. So defense did their job. And, whatever happened at the end, I don't know if that was just us letting our guard down. Lions don't seem to be a team that does that, or like we said, the first touchdown was very unlikely to happen. That was crazy that he caught that, and the second one was a Meek getting greedy. So those are like 2 touchdowns that shouldn't be there. And I will say that first touchdown shouldn't even been in that place. Shouldn't have got to that point anyways, because on a 4th down earlier they threw that flag on Anzalone. That was a terrible flag. Like, I got so mad at that. Like, that, first of all, that flag came in like 5 seconds after the play's over, just when Gesicki come back and starts complaining about the call. And second, that ball was like 7 yards behind him and out of bounds. Like, at no point would he have even had a chance to catch that. I know that had to make you mad.
It did, but my thing, it's got to be a catchable ball, right? That's the whole point. It's got to be a catchable ball. Gesicki's running, and Anzalone does grab onto his arm. He's got, he can't move his right arm as much because Anzalone's grabbing onto him. Closer play, yes, that could be called pass interference, but you're right. He continues running the route and is almost just trying to draw the penalty. He's not trying to catch the ball, which who knows if that was just a bad throw or whatever. But then, yes, that's so frustrating when the play happens and then they instantly start yelling at these referees and then a flag comes. Like, how are you going to let them dictate when you're throwing a flag or not?
No. Yeah, and that's the way whether, he was going to pull that flag out and it just took him a little bit or whatever, but that's exactly the way it looks. That's the perception, is that the player complained enough and then they're going to throw the flag. And also, I feel like in that situation, and I think Dynasty's trying to get to this point in the chat, is that, the refs also, the NFL they want to keep these games close, right? Because, they don't want people turning off the TV because ad revenue and all that stuff goes down. So, I mean, I'm not saying that the games are fixed or anything like that, but it does feel like we want to artificially sometimes keep these games close. That, to me, that was like the ref throwing the flag and saying, well, let's give the Bengals a chance. It's probably not going to affect the outcome of this game, but let's, that, I guess that's PI, but it was a terrible, terrible call. It should never been called.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, he did grab his arm. That part was right. Like, he had his arm. That should have been PI. Had the ball been anywhere in the vicinity where he could have possibly even made a play, and it was not even close.
Yeah,
exactly. Gesicki could have stopped and sold it more by, trying to dive towards the ball or do something, but he didn't. He was just like flailing his arms up, like, look at me, I can't get my arms out. And then right in the ref's face, like, why are you not calling that?
Yeah, it was a bunch of crap.
So, yeah. Offense, Jared Goff. We're going to start with Jared Goff here. 19 of 23, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, 1 fumble lost. Manu got beat pretty bad, and Jared Goff paid for it. With a questionable fumble, we'll call that. He was sacked 4 times in this game, though. He had not been sacked since week 1 against Green Bay. And he gets sacked 4 times in this one with the backup. linemen in. What were your overall thoughts about Jared Goff?
I think Jared Goff's playing MVP caliber football this year. And I don't think if he had any sort of running game at all, he would be at the very top of this. Josh Allen Lamar's out, right? So, and he wasn't particularly having that awesome of a season leading up to this point. Josh Allen is and continues, and he's got the legs. And just watching him play, I know that they lost on Sunday night, but just the way he could extend plays and do things, he is amazing. But I also think that that's what makes Jared Goff even more amazing is that the limited physical tools that he has as far as running, and he's so calm and just able to move things around in the pocket. And I wouldn't say his protection was very great in this game. It's definitely the worst since week 1 that he's had. And he was still only had 4 incompletions and did what he needed to do, dialed up when he needed to do. And he did what we said he should do in the preview game. Get the ball to the playmakers because the Bengals they don't tackle very well. Either they take bad routes, they give up a ton of yak, which they did in this game. And, Jared Goff he constantly does what he needs to do to win the game. And yeah, his ability to move in the pocket is pretty special actually for a guy of his, limited athletic traits.
For a guy who looks like he's stuck in the mud, is that what you're trying to say?
Trying to say it kindly.
Yes. No, I thought it was another great game by Goff, as expected. The interesting part of that for me was just looking at the Pro Football Focus. When you look at some of these grades and I don't know if you saw, do you know what he was rated on Pro Football Focus for this week?
Goff? No, I didn't see.
So Pro Football Focus rated him a 68.2. And it's just like the Terryon thing. Like, what are you looking at? What more could he possibly have done? You throw 4 incompletions the whole game. Yes, you lost a fumble, but I don't know that you really pinned that on him. Just crazy that he's still getting that, that reputation. Just something about Goff just rubs people the wrong way, or they just feel like he's not elite. Goff is currently leading the league in touchdowns and completion percentage.
Yes.
And I don't know if you saw the next gen stats for this either, but he was pressured on 8 of his 27 dropbacks. But 8 of those pressures resulted in 4 sacks.
Yep. Yeah. Well, it's like 2 of them were blindside. Like he didn't even know that they were there. And for Goff, he's not used to that. I mean, Decker's usually, gives him a little bit more time or, does enough to like get it. So like, even if he gets sacked, he's not getting hit as hard as he was getting hit, That second
he has
sack
time to go down easy.
That Manu. Well, I mean, he could see it coming or feel it coming. Like, he can move we've seen him get bunched up in the pocket before and he just, kind of guides himself down. But the second sack which I can't believe he didn't fumble, the second sack that Manu gave up was like, he just got absolutely blasted and he held onto the ball amazingly. But I was like, man, that's the hardest I've seen Goff get hit. Long time in a Lions uniform.
You could tell by the look on his face when he was getting up too. It was like he felt that one, man. He also so 3 touchdowns for Goff, but he had one vultured away from him by David Montgomery, who threw a touchdown pass in almost a goal line situation.
Yeah, Goff almost had a perfect passer rating. David Montgomery had a perfect passer rating, beat him by a point. That's great for Montgomery. Good guy. Before we move off Goff, though, I just want to say Larry Rice in the chat says, Goff is surprisingly sturdy when you see like how lanky he is. He takes a lot of shots and just kind of shrugs them off. He never seems really shaken up. And I agree. Like when you looked at the quarterback show last year, I didn't realize the ankle injury was bothering him as much as it was, so he is surprisingly sturdy for a guy that like looks just really thin and lanky.
Right. True. And I mean, to have his head taken off during that playoff game and be able to come back out there and keep playing.
Yeah, I'm convinced he had a concussion in that game. There's just no other way. Montgomery, like, gets his homecoming right, gets to throw a touchdown pass, and then gets a scoring a nice touchdown play. And I don't know if you saw the snap counts, but he out-snapped Gibbs this week.
Yes. It was close, was it not? I thought they were only like a handful of snaps away.
He had like one snap, I think, more than him. But
Oh, okay.
but Gibbs had been going like almost like 2/3 to 1/3. Like he'd almost been doubling like his snap count leading up to that week. So I have a feeling this was the homecoming thing. They just gave it, they let Monty have his thing. Cause I'll honestly, Gibbs could have had a really good game against this. I feel like if they would have given him more snaps, Gibbs would have eventually broke one on this defense.
That's what I was just going to ask is, are you okay with that? Seemed to be the game plan. And I think Goff even had said, obviously everybody loves Demo, what he means to the team, the type of person that he is. They knew the gravity of the situation, that he's coming back home, his family's there watching and everything. And they, it seemed like that was part of the game plan. It's like, we're just going to keep feeding Demo. We're going to let him get his today. And I mean, were you okay with that? Or, Gibbs had the receiving touchdown. He, once you get on the outside on this defense, you're right. He could have broken something out. He could have had an electric play. I feel like we left something out there by having, Demo carry the ball as many times as he did. But when we were also, if you talk about the script, we were up by so much too that it kind of were able to just say, let's, let him run the ball. And it wasn't like Montgomery didn't have a good game doing it either. It just did feel like, we could have had some more explosive plays. Feels weird to complain about it, but, how do you feel about that though? Are you okay with them just being like, you know what? Yeah, you're home. We're going to let you handle it from here.
All right. They won. That's where I'm at with it. They won. So I really don't care about it. I just feel just watching that game, it feels like this is a game that Gibbs could have just taken over if they would have went with their regular rotation. But it's not. But like you said, it's not like we lost a lot by putting Monty in there. Monty did what he needed to do. We didn't I don't think the offense sputtered because of Monty at all. So I'm not mad about it at all when you put it that way. And especially when you look at like what are the guys, Amon-Ra, and finally Laporta got his game right. Laporta did his thing, and I loved seeing that. That touchdown he scored was sweet.
Yes. I mean, we've been talking about for weeks now. Laporta just seems like he was going to be able to break one out, and that he's finding targets. He's finding open spots. He's finding soft spots. They're getting him the ball a little bit more. It was nice for him to have a big game like this. It was funny, though, that, right away, right from the jump, I'm not to jump ahead, but, Ash was talking about Laporta, being effective on these play action on the boots and stuff like that. He scores a play action touchdown on the very first drive.
Yep. I know. That was good. He's like, he asked us if that counted. I gave it to him. So I don't know if I overrode you or whether he, should have got it.
Well,
or not,
we don't really keep score on those anyway, so.
No, we don't. No. But, it's the least we could do for Ash staying up till 2:30 in the morning.
Right.
With us on Wednesday. I thought Manu played all right in the game. I mean, I know he only gave up 2 pressures by the grades, but both of them were sacks and they were pretty terrible. But I think the Lions had a pretty, good plan about chipping over there, running away. A lot of the runs were to the right side away from Manu, even though Campbell said that they thought that he blocked well in the run game. But I was okay with it. What did you think of Manu playing? Like, if he has to go next week, are you really worried?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I thought that he was horrendous, because obviously it wasn't like Goff was getting under pressure every other time. And it wasn't like Manu was completely lost out there. But there were some definitely inopportune times for those plays to be happening. So going forward, no, I don't think he's ready to be out there in an extensive,
Mm-hmm.
Here's an interesting thing with that too. It would be nice if you could put him on the right side so he's not covering Goff's blind side. But you can't take Panay, who's played right tackle forever, and they've got the thing going. He's got Ratledge over there with him. You can't put Panay on the left side and have Manu and Ratledge together on the right. So, I mean, this is kind of, it is what it is.
So if Skipper is ready to play, do you think that you'd feel more comfortable with Skipper being brought up from the practice squad instead of Manu?
I was going to ask you the same exact question.
All right.
I don't have the numbers in front of me to see, but Skipper struggled in training camp, right? And there's a reason they felt like Skipper, was not quite up to par to make the team this year. So I've got to trust Dan Campbell. I've got to trust Brad Holmes and say that I think that Manu probably outperformed or has a better shot at holding it down over Skipper.
Mm-hmm.
But that is interesting, because I was going to ask you that same exact question. What's your thoughts on it?
I think I'd feel a little bit more comfortable with Skipper over there, especially against like the Chiefs defense, Steve Spagnuolo. They blitz a ton, so I don't, he at least has a lot more experience there. It was Manu's first start, as Lynn posted in our chat, and people tend to grow as things go on. So I think of like Ratledge's first start of the year versus the Packers and how much he's grown since that start. I don't know if I'm not putting Manu and Ratledge in the same category as far as talent, but that's something to think about, that he's going to learn from his mistakes. Learning on the road in the loudest environment that the Lions are probably going to face, up in, well, at least until they get to Minnesota, but Chief Stadium is one of the loudest, if not the loudest in the country. So this is going to be a pretty difficult. You better be on point with your communications. Manu said he missed a kill call in Cincinnati, and that was basically a home game for the Lions. I mean, that was essentially like
Right.
especially with like the Bengals being out of it and their, Burrow being out and all that stuff, and all the, like probably 40% Lions fans there. They didn't even have to go silent count, Manu said at any point. So like, that's about the easiest road game he's gonna get. Next week is gonna be the exact opposite. So he better be ready if he's gonna play.
I think all those
do
reasons that you gave, though, are probably exactly why they were like, maybe Decker could have gone had this been like a playoff game. But I think that they probably laid out all those exact things that you just said about the Chiefs and what we were going to have to deal with. And that's probably exactly why they said, Decker, we need you to take this one off. We've got to go with Manu in this one because we're going to need you in case.
Do you think that? I mean, do you think Decker plays this upcoming week? I mean, do you get the feeling that he's going to be ready to play based on how Dan Campbell's talking? Or
I hope so. I mean, they're not really letting that out there, right? I mean, they're not. You don't want to put your cards on the table right now. No. But as you've already alluded to, yes, we're in trouble. I don't feel comfortable if Manu is out there starting in a big game against KC, especially when you already talk about, the complementary football thing. We don't have our corners. The defense is going to be a dogfight for the defense. We need our offense to be able to put up points if we have to outscore them. And if they're coming with pressure and trying to confuse Manu and they're stunning and they're bringing in linebacker, you don't want to have Brock Wright out there chipping and helping out as an extra blocker the majority of the time. So yes, that's all very bad. So I'm hoping that extra week of rest is what Decker needed.
Yeah. I'm just worried that with the bye coming up, that the Lions go like, we're giving you 2 weeks off and then the bye, and then, we're hoping that you're healthy for the rest of the season, because I could definitely see that being a possibility. The fact that we're 4-1, which I'm not saying you take games off or whatever, but they may look at that like we're doing all right, and, we may be, they may look at that as a longevity thing. Like, we need to be playing our best football in December, and having a healthy Decker then is better than, having a healthy Decker now. So that'll be interesting. I could see them going either way with that.
That much is true, but what's your panic level? Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, what's your panic level at if we decide we're going to sit Decker till the bye week and then we lose both of these games to the Chiefs and the Buccaneers and we go into the bye at 4-3?
4-3. Part of that also is going to feel like if DJ Reed's going to be back, I don't want to be 4-3. But also, like, I also feel like we get in the playoffs, I'm okay with it. Like, we need to be playing. We had the number 1 seed last year, and we didn't. Like, what if we'd arrested people and then had the 4th or 5th seed and then went in more healthy? Like, what if that? I'm not saying that could have been happening, but let's just say that for all intents and purposes, that could have happened. That we go into the playoffs, yeah, we play the first week, the wild card weekend, but we're more healthy, and those are. Dan even talked about that. Like, the push to get the number 1 seed may have pushed them over the edge, as opposed to like pulling it back a little bit. And maybe this Decker move is like what they learned from last year. Like, we don't need to get the number 1 seed. We need to, just pace ourselves so that we are playing our best football and we're healthier in December than we are right now. I won't like being 4-3, but what's your feeling about that? That's a good question. I think the philosophical nature of that question is important. Like, I think I couldn't argue either way about that. Like, if whatever your feeling is fine, but it is a very good question.
Well, the next two games are against the best two opponents that we played so far. Probably anyway. You would say the Buccaneers definitely, but the Chiefs are still the Chiefs, and we're playing at KC. So even going into this full strength, there's, these are the 50-50 games that we were talking about that we need to come away with some of these. So being 4-1 right now, I guess kind of gives you that wiggle room that maybe you could lose one of these and still feel pretty good going into the bye week. I think if you, are on a 2-game losing streak going into the bye week, and then you've got the Vikings coming up, a divisional matchup, it all of a sudden makes that matchup even bigger than it already looks. So, I can't say I'm really hitting the panic button yet if we were to do that, but especially if Decker's out, because then you've got Decker's out, Terryon's out, DJ Reed is out. We've got the whole injury thing happening again. Then it's almost like making it close is like a moral victory when you're without all these guys. Team's not about moral victories anymore, and I don't like the idea of thinking about it, but I'm just saying that I think in my head if we go 4-3, then they start feeling a little bit more pressure. Because last year we were able to put these wins together even despite all the injuries that we had.
So, yes, we don't have moral victories anymore. It is, man, it is. I don't know. I could go either way. I don't think we give up on any of these. And, the chat's interesting because I see people are saying that, people, they didn't want to say we're holding Decker out because we're confident we could beat Cincy. And I think that that's probably what they said. Like, this is the way to go. Half the chat seems to feel like Decker's going to play. Other half seems to think that Decker's going to be held out till after the bye week. I'm not sure about how this is going to go, but I think we could save some of this conversation for Wednesday when we have a little bit more information about, Decker and maybe after they've asked Dan Campbell, but it's a lot to
Do
think
you
about.
think we do? I don't think we have. I think Wednesday we're in the same boat that we're in right now. He's not going to practice. We're not going to, other than if they ask Dan Campbell and he says, yeah, he's going to go.
That's where the question's going to come in. And I think
Do you
Dan
think he
Campbell's
would say
gonna be
that
pretty
even if he
cagey
was?
with it. He's gonna be cagey,
Right.
I think, unless. Yeah, I don't think that we're going to know the answer to that. But Dan Campbell surprised me before and said some stuff that I didn't think that he'd give away. So we'll see how it goes. I just want to say one more. We kind of went long on the offense, but I just want to say that drive when we were up 28-17, that is what a championship level team does. Like, they have just scored that touchdown, and we took a 5-minute drive, went 8 plays, 68 yards, no third downs. Goff just let us down the field. And scored a touchdown and basically said, "You thought you were coming back? No, you're not coming back. We're the Detroit Lions." The offense just decided to wake up. It's awesome that they did that, but then also at the same time, like, I'm frustrated because I'm like, if it's so easy, why couldn't we just do these, like, when we're getting the ball on their side of the field? It seems like we should be able to punch all those in for touchdowns.
Right. No, but it was a good response. They had the deep touchdown, the quick, the 64-yard touchdown. Then we go on a long drive and show them a complete football team, and just drove it down, ran it down, had a couple big passes to Amon Ra, and then culminated in the touchdown to Tesla. So right, that was a great drive. That's probably the drive of the day. Because that's when,
Yes, 100%.
that was right after. So it became 28-17. And that's when they come back out. And all of a sudden, the fans are kind of into it a little more. The defense seemed to, like I talked about earlier, they were kind of deflated. The offense put some points on the board back to back. They had a big play. They're like, this is our chance. Let's go show them what we're made of. And then the Lions kind of said, that's cute, but you don't even belong out here with us. And we're going to show you why.
Exactly. Yep. We dominated the red zone. We were officially 5 for 6, but that last one doesn't count because we kneeled down at the 10-yard line. Could have scored if we wanted to, but we did what we needed to do there. So kind of already hit on the injury outlook. I think let's do another I don't want to do it here, but I'm going to tease it that we did a video last week with a question about should we trade for a cornerback. And that was all before the Terryon thing, before we knew about Dorsey. My answer may have changed, and I'm curious if your answer had changed. So I'm going to tease that video. So look forward to that on YouTube. Jacob and I will record that at a later date and get that posted before next week. I'm going to do a little more time researching who's available on the trade market and who, is out on the free agent market. So is that cool with you, Jacob?
Yes.
All right. let's do the review, the grit guarantees real quick. Because we're a little over an hour and I'm trying to keep it under an hour. So
Yes.
review the grit guarantees real quick.
All right. I said that the Lions were going to score at least 30 points in this one, and they came through by scoring 37. There was no jinx, no superstitious reasons for the grit guarantee. We broke the curse, guys. Very proud of that one. Jason says that the Lions were going to get 3+ sacks. This is kind of a push. This is weird, but we only got 2 sacks. The sacks were coming, but the penalties were negating them. So technically, for the historical grit guarantees, this one does not count for Jason. But
No,
you were close. You were on.
you misheard me. I said 3+ interceptions.
You wish. And then here's the controversial one that we had where I put this one yellow. I was like, this is in the middle here. So Ash, our guest last week, he said Sam Laporta is going to get a touchdown on a play action boot play. So first drive, Laporta scores a touchdown on a play action pass, but it was not a boot play. However, they did do the play action boot a little bit later in the game, and that was when Laporta got a 39-yard catch. So shouts out to Ash for being able to call out the boot and know that they were gonna, utilize that. He knew the Bengals were going to be susceptible to that play, as did Johnny Moe, and they did use it.
Yep.
So you know what?
Yeah.
The grit guarantee, we're going to give Ash that one anyway. We don't keep a running score on those.
Yeah, no, he gets one for sure.
He was pretty close. He got too cute with it. If he would have just left it play action pass, he wanted the boot.
Yeah, he did put the qualifier in there. So, all right, our roar alerts. Jacob, you went with DJ Reader. He did not record a tackle. It was kind of quiet in the game. However, he did lead the defensive tackles in snaps. He had the most snaps, so he was out there. Just didn't he did a lot. Let's just say that he did a lot. We just those defensive tackles just don't show up on the score sheet. If he'd have got a sack or something like that, then for sure he'd been out there. But the roar alert is he didn't do anything bad. I can tell you that he was out there doing more good than bad. And Ash and I said JMO was going to have a makeup game, pretty quiet offensively for like stat wise. But I will say from the all 22 that I looked at, heavily featured in the run game blocking, and some of those yards for Amon-Ra definitely belonged to JMO because JMO was doing a lot to clear everybody out for clear space out for Amon-Ra to get catches and yak.
Yes, I mean, and that's how we utilize him, and he's really good at that because they always keep help over top wherever JMO's at, and that usually culminates in Amon-Ra. Sometimes it's Ben Khalif. In this game, it was Laporta. Somebody's able to get open across because everyone's worried about where JMO's at. So, yes, it's not showing up on the stat sheet, but he's an important part of the offense. It's just frustrating. I'm sure it's kind of frustrating for him. I mean, they're winning. The team is doing good. But it's frustrating for him. It's frustrating for the fans to not see that on the stat sheet. But the team is winning.
I could, also you're kind of stuck here too. Their safety plays pretty good there, and also you have Manu in, so you're afraid to like let anything develop very long. Like they wanted to get that ball out quickly, so that's going to limit JMO's, effectiveness deep. And they tried it right away. They gave him the reverse, like at the very first offensive play. That play hasn't worked this year. Both times they've ran it, he hasn't even got a first down. Whereas years past, they were scoring touchdowns. Teams are ready for it.
Exactly. It just seems like as soon as he's in motion, everybody on the field knows there's a decent chance this guy's going to get the ball.
I know they do the like wide receiver screens to Amon-Ra, but they hardly ever do it to JMO. And I don't know if it's because teams are ready and they get up close to him, but just trying to get him the ball in space just seems like a good idea. But
for sure,
I'm sure there's a reason why they're not doing it. All right, we're pushing past our hour. Do you have any party shots before we take off here?
I actually don't have anything in this one. I just want to say that, a win is a win in the NFL. And I know that, most of these games we come away satisfied with the victory, but also feeling like we left something out there and feeling like it just wasn't something was missing or we could have done more. But a win is a win. And we covered the spread. We beat a team, on the road. We're rolling right now. So, fans don't get discouraged about, you wanted to beat the Bengals 54-0 and we were up 28-3 and everything, but we got the job done.
Yeah, mine kind of goes on that too. Like I tweeted this out earlier, and I'll just say it here for anyone that is not reading our Twitter account. I personally have been waiting my whole life for the Lions to be able to win games without playing perfect. It seems like for my whole life, for us to win a game, things had to go our way. We had to play a perfect game. The other team had to play stupid. Again, for the second week in a row where we haven't played, I would say, a perfect game, and we've won convincingly. So it's like I know fans I think what fans really see is they see Kansas City on our schedule, they see Philadelphia, and they're like, if we play like that, then we're not going to beat those teams, right? And the other team's going to take advantage. But I also think that Dan Campbell, I'm not saying he's playing down to his opponent, but he's playing with the defense that we have. He's also playing differently. You saw those punt midfield twice. If we were playing another team that had a higher powered offense, I don't think that he does it. I think that we go for it or we run a different third down play. We set those drives up a little differently. I think that Dan Campbell knew that he could count on our defense. They didn't score. So each game is its own game, right? So you can't equate to what's going to happen to Kansas City. We're going to play that game. Dan Campbell's going to play that game totally different than what he played this Cincinnati game. You're not going to give Patrick Mahomes extra chances. You're going to play that game differently. And especially with our secondary being depleted, we're also going to have, different schemes, just different, we might be throwing more pressure. This will be stuff that we talk about on Wednesday, but it'll be different. So I don't think it's fair to equate what these games, that, okay, we can't continue playing like that. We're going to lose these good teams. Lions are just playing, the way to win this game. And then we worry about next game, almost equated to what Jim Harbaugh would do at Michigan. We get up, we had a great defense, and then he'd run 12 straight times. And it would be frustrating, right? But we'd win the game. And that's all Jim Harbaugh cared about. And I think Dan Campbell is doing the same thing. We're used to, the Chicago game where we're high powered and scoring all these points and people get worried when we're just not scoring at will. I also think that Dan Campbell's learning to trust our defense a lot more. And so I think you're going to see more games like this.
And I mean, we scored 37 points. It's not like we went out there and won, 24-10 or something like that. We're the highest scoring offense in the league right now.
I know. Yeah. This is what happens when you get a winning program. You people have high expectations, and that's okay. It's nice that we can have high expectations for this team. I haven't had high expectations in my whole life up until Dan Campbell came to town. I mean, I had high expectations, but I was constantly let down. So
right.
So, all right, we're gonna do an all 22 review. I see some good comments in the chat. We'll hit those. We'll hit up with you guys after we wrap up this show. But for Jacob, I'm Jason. Victory Monday. We'll be back on Wednesday. Still no Kansas City person yet. We're working on that. Hopefully that can happen. If not, maybe we'll ask Ash again because he's more than welcome to be on this show. So we'll go down that road in a little bit. So one thing left to say: Go Lions!